A Senate committee is scheduled to vote later this week on a proposal to put legislative oversight on the governor's emergency powers. The bill comes after numerous failed proposals for change during the COVID pandemic and former Governor Jay Inslee's nearly 1,000-day state of emergency.
So new at 6, Capitol correspondent Albert James shows us why supporters are optimistic this time around, especially with how Governor Bob Ferguson is getting involved.
This bill doesn't change any of the powers available to the governor. It just kind of sets a time limit of when the legislature gets to come back into play.
Senate Bill 5434 would allow the legislature to terminate a governor's state of emergency by a vote of the House and Senate or the leadership of both chambers when they're not in session. Under the bipartisan bill, the legislature would also be able to weigh in on the governor's emergency prohibitions of activities for public safety. Orders limiting gatherings, the sale of alcohol, and other activities would expire after 30 days unless extended by the legislature. Republican sponsor Keith Wagoner of Skagit County says legislative oversight was left out of the last update to the governor's emergency powers in 2019. Reform proposals were pushed during former Governor Jay Inslee's over 2-year state of emergency during the COVID pandemic, but they never made it into law.
Two things have changed. We're not in the middle of an emergency, and we have a new governor who's willing to work, something that I'm grateful for.
On Governor Bob Ferguson's part, he highlighted reform as a priority during his inaugural address last month. And as first reported by the Washington State Standard, Ferguson even made a call to a committee chair to hear the bill last Friday.
We weren't sure the bill was going to get a hearing. I don't know that, but it was important enough to me to reach out after hearing the governor's willingness to work with us. It was also kind of a test. Is this real? Because it was unexpected.
Business groups and others testified in support of the legislation at last week's hearing, but some individuals argued the bill doesn't go far enough to let the legislature limit the governor's powers.
It's like when I get a big box for my birthday, I open it, and inside is a really small toy. That's what this bill is. It's a small tidbit we actually get out of it.
The bill is slated for a committee vote on Friday. All legislation not necessary to implement the budget have to pass out of their committees by that day. In Olympia, I'm Albert James reporting.